it's Elise and welcome back to My Cupcake Addiction. On today's episode, I'm super excited to be showing you guys how to make a rainbow zebra surprise inside cake. On the outside, black and white zebra. On the inside, it is a rainbow of color. The things you're gonna need. Today I'm gonna go with a packet mix, and I'll often use a packet mix when I know that I'm gonna add a lot of color. So lots of my rainbow cakes, just because you have to mix them so much. And if you're using a homemade recipe, all that mixing can sometimes knock the air out of them. To make up my cakes today, I just need eggs, butter, and milk. So of course I've got those. I've got some bowls. So we're gonna be doing a lot of coloring today. So we've got a lot of little bowls. I've got a bunch of colors. So I'm using red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and pink. And I've also got black to make our zebra stripes. I've got some spoons, some corn flour, a batch of our perfectly pipeable buttercream frosting. I will leave a link to that one down below. For my tools and utensils, I've got a ruler, I've got an offset spatula, a rolling pin, I've got a pizza cutter, and I've got a bit of black fondant. And I've got 2 Springform trays. So you can make this any size and any shape you like. I'm just going with one that I've got 2 trays the same size of because it means I can cook both cakes together. I've got those lined and they're also really, really well greased, and I'm gonna be beating today in my electric mixer. All right, now I'm just gonna make up my packet mix as per the manufacturer's instructions, and that's literally as easy as chucking the ingredients in and getting it mixing. And I'm making both batches of mine at the same time because I've got both of those trays ready to go. If you've only got one tray, make this one batch at a time because you don't wanna color all that batter and have it sitting for a long time while you wait for that first cake to bake. All right, so my mix is all done. Now we wanna divide that batter up between all of our bowls. You want to put like half of the batter into your black mix because every second stripe's going to be black. And then I'm going to evenly divide between the other bowls, almost evenly. So for my colors that are going to be on the outside, which for me is going to be red, orange, and yellow, I want more in those bowls and a bit less batter for the inside colors. So now you want to add in your color. I love the paste colors for this because they're really nice and bright. And don't be shy on your color here. The more color, the better when it comes to your rainbow cakes. All right, now mix all of your colors through and they should be really nice and vibrant. Now here's the fun part. Here's where you get to make your rainbow zebra cake really come alive. So you want to start off with a nice big spoonful of the black, straight in the middle of the pan, and try and keep these as close to the middle of the pan as you can. And try to keep them as round as you can. Now, you want to divide these bowls pretty much evenly because we need to make 2 cakes that are roughly the same. So I'm going to take half of my red and place it in the middle of that black circle. So as you place this cake batter in the middle, it should actually push the black circle out a little bit. Once your first color's in, then you can put in another tablespoon of the black. Each color that we put on top is going to continue to push that black circle out. So eventually this red's going to be kind of right up around the outside of our outside edges. Then in goes our orange. Once again, dividing that batter in half, straight down on top of the black. And I'm just really using my spoon. I'm certainly not going all the way to the bottom of the pan. I'm just sort of dabbing that orange down because as I'm dabbing it down, it's forcing out those other colors. Another spoonful of black. And then onto yellow. Now don't be afraid here. Take your pans and give them a couple of good taps on the bench to help distribute that mix. Perfect, and then we'll keep going with our black. Our final color for me in the middle is going to be pink, followed by one last blob of black. Now don't be afraid to really give these a couple of good hard bangs down. You sort of want to bring that black that's in the middle roughly in line with the red that's all the way around those outside edges so that your cake rises relatively evenly. Take a piece of baking paper and you want to cut it relatively to size. It doesn't have to be the exact same size, but it's got to be able to fit inside that pan. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to push that down, and as I push it down, I'm just going to use it to gently even out that cake batter so it's all a little bit more sort of even in the bottom of that pan. Sort of pushing these inner colors out a little bit so that we're forcing the batter out to the sides of the tray. We're going to trim these cakes down, so it's not a big deal if they're not exactly even, but you don't want to be trimming away too much of that rainbow zebra pattern, and you want it to rise as evenly as possible. All right, so those are now looking really, really nice and flat on top. We're going to pop those off into a moderate oven for about 40 minutes, and you'll know they're done when you poke a skewer in the middle and it pops out clean, or when you touch the top of the cake, be careful, it's going to be hot and it springs back in the middle. Once they're finished baking, I always like to let my cakes completely cool in the tins that I've baked them in. Okay, so you want to carve your cakes. Now we're just going to take off just the very tops. You want to sort of level them off, but you don't want to take too much height off those layers. And I'm just going to, by eye, slice across and just get rid of that top layer to reveal those beautiful, vibrant colors underneath. I'm just going to trim away until I'm happy that I've got a relatively kind of a flat and level surface. When I'm happy that I've got around the same height in my cakes, I'm going to take a little bit of buttercream frosting, and I'm just using a cake plate today. I've got it on a little turntable with a bit of cloth under it so it won't slip around. So now I'm just going to put a thin layer of buttercream frosting in between my two cake layers and try and bring your frosting all the way out to the outside edges. Perfect. On goes my next layer of cake. Now I'm going to just trim around the outside edges a little bit just to get any kind of brownish edges away. So while everything's still pretty messy, I'm going to give a really thin crumb coat all the way around the outside, and I am being really careful not to get crumbs back into my frosting. So you'll see I still am making a decent effort just to try and neaten it up, and it's kind of your opportunity to fill in any gaps, even your cake off if you need to, but I try and keep my edges relatively sharp. We'll pop that one in the freezer, and then I'm going to show you how to make some zebra stripes. Now, while your cake's freezing, it only needs about 15 minutes in there. It's the perfect time to roll out all of your stripes. Sprinkling down a little bit of corn flour, and then I'm going to roll out that black fondant as thin as I can possibly get it. Keep your fondant moving as much as possible. Give it one roll and then shift it around a bit. I've gone about the thickness of a credit card, maybe a credit card and a half. Now I'm going to use the pizza cutter here. Going to just trim up the side edge so I've got no ratty edges, and you're literally just going to make some little haphazard stripes. And you want to make plenty that have got those little kind of flat edges, because the flat edge ones are going to be fabulous for going where the cake starts and finishes and along those edges, but running through the middle you kind of want some that are pointed on both sides. And when you're done, you just want to cover them up with another piece of baking paper that is just going to protect them a little bit from the air so they're not starting to crack when you stick them onto your cake. Coming back to the freezer, your cake shouldn't be frozen, but that buttercream should definitely be a little bit firm. So now I know that all my crumbs are trapped, I'm going to put on kind of copious amounts of this buttercream frosting. Because I haven't completely frozen that buttercream frosting on the cake, this top coat of frosting's not going to set super fast. Perfect. Now that I'm happy I've got enough frosting on the cake, I'm going to start scraping it back a little bit. So with my offset spatula on a slight angle, I'm just scraping back the tops, and you'll see that I'm scraping them into the center of the cake. That's going to help them kind of draw a nice neat corner or a nice neat edge, but it's also going to help me level out the cake and spread the frosting around where it needs to go. The ruler. I always have a ruler ready for cake decorating, and this is my specific cake ruler, but I use this to get a really nice flat edge. So I'm just going to bring it around the outside, scraping a little bit off and getting a beautiful flat edge, but be careful not to scrape too far here because you don't want to go and expose that crumb coat that we've just covered up. After one last go around the side with a very clean palette knife or offset spatula, I'm going to do a very final drag of those little outside edges, and I'm really not applying any pressure at all. I'm just really carefully just dragging. All right, before that starts to set, we're going to start getting our stripes on. Ready? I like to start with some that kind of go over the middle of the cake. So some of my larger, longer whole stripes with the two pointy ends. Gentle pressure, because we're working with buttercream here, and as many or as few stripes as you like. One thing you might notice is as I place my stripes, I'm putting all of my little flat edges down towards the bottom of the cake board, so they're kind of like starting at the cake board. I don't mind if they go off on sort of angles, but I'm trying to run them roughly the same way across the top of the cake. So that's it. That's your gorgeous and rather unassuming surprise inside zebra cake. On the outside, black and white zebra. On the inside, an absolute rainbow of crazy colors. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to My Cupcake Addiction. I upload 2 new videos every week. As always, guys, thanks very much for watching.